crazy. Baby,
Just 4 days before the 2004 US presidential election, a newly published tape appears on the news. The election between George Bush and John Kerry was dominated by foreign policy decisions in the wake of the September 11 attacks.
Al-Qaeda's key members and associates have been
Damn, that shit looked like it was
to
so old.
destroy, capture, kill Osama bin Laden and all of the terrorists.
This tape, published by Al Jazeera, now shows a recovered Osama bin Laden, claiming responsibility for the attacks much more directly than before. The staging of this recording, in which bin Laden tries to appear as some legitimate figure, directly addressing the nation that he attacked, is a painful reminder that the most wanted man on the planet must be feeling somewhat safe wherever he may be.
Crazy. Man, it's cause this nigga did on 9/11. They said he did a post-game interview afterwards, bro. Why would you do that, man? What the
At the very same time, at the CIA
This is CIA headquarters. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
headquarters in Virginia, where a special unit was tasked with finding bin Laden, pretty much every lead had gone cold at this point. A situation that was even more frustrating considering that almost 3 years ago, they believed they were close to catching him. By the end of the 2001 US invasion of Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda fighters had been pushed into the eastern part of the country. Here, they barricaded themselves in the caves of Tora Bora, and American intelligence agencies suspected bin Laden to be amongst them. Supported by the Americans, local Afghan tribes fought through the terrain, and heavy airstrikes were carried out. But by the time the battle was won, bin Laden had already fled. After the fighting ended, only about 20 people were arrested, and the CIA was left empty-handed, having missed what may have been a unique opportunity to capture Al-Qaeda's leader. But at least one of the people arrested here would eventually open a lead for investigators to follow. Prior to his capture, Mohammed al-Qahtani was unknown to the investigators. He himself denied any connection to Al-Qaeda and said that he was in Afghanistan to pursue his interest in falconry. But when investigators took his fingerprints, they found a match in their system. They found out that just a few weeks before the September 11 attacks, he had tried to enter the United States. Carrying $2,800 in cash with him and traveling on a one-way ticket, the customs agent became suspicious of Qahtani and denied him entry to the country, fearing he might be trying to illegally immigrate. The investigators also knew that on the very same day, a call was placed from Orlando Airport to an Al-Qaeda telephone number in the United Arab Emirates.
What?
This number had been monitored, and the fact that Qahtani was at the airport at the same time made investigators scramble to establish some sort of connection between these events. FBI agents worked
I think that I guess if they found evidence.
their way through piles
Seem a little racist to me. Smells a little race. I smell a little racism here. I'm not gonna lie.
of airport surveillance footage looking for more leads. And eventually,
Tastes like a
they
racist.
were successful. They were able to identify a car that was, at the time, rented by Mohammed Atta. Atta was the ringleader of the September 11 attacks and piloted American Airlines Flight 11 that struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
Oh, so he did.
It was concluded that Atta was waiting at the airport to pick up Qahtani. It is widely believed that Qahtani was intended as one of the hijackers of United Airlines Flight 93, which is the flight that failed to reach the attacker's intended destination because it crashed in Pennsylvania while the passengers were attempting to regain control. With that knowledge, Qahtani was interrogated, and he was one of several Al-Qaeda captives that in the coming months and years made it possible for investigators to get a better picture of the group's inner workings. Abu Zubaydah, a logistician for the group, was arrested in March 2002 and offered the CIA information that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was Al-Qaeda's operational commander, had planned the attacks on America. 1 year later, he also
Bro, this guy planned this whole attack.
was arrested. And Qahtani
I don't know why I expected him to look like some sort of evil, like fucking Batman, Lex Luger type villain, you know? Just look like regular ass dudes, bro. It's crazy.
revealed that in July 2001,
Especially Muhammad Al-Qahtani. It looked like I went to school with a nigga like this, bro. That's the craziest part. I thought they were gonna look like super evil villain type beats.
in preparation for the attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed introduced him to a person previously unknown to the CIA, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, who trained Qahtani in operational security. All this helped investigators to understand Al-Qaeda's structure better, with less trained operatives, a command and planning layer, and bin Laden as the leader. But they were still clueless as to bin Laden's whereabouts. The CIA was mapping relationships to understand who was in close contact with him and how he communicated from his hiding place. The private network of bin Laden, his family members, were also looked at. However, there was no contact between bin Laden and those family members of him that could be located. What the CIA knew was that bin Laden continued to send messages though. In the following years, new audio tapes appeared, and it was known that he was communicating with members of leadership within Al-Qaeda. The strategy of the CIA, therefore, was to look for the courier network, people that transport information.
Your career.
Big and tasty. War with Iran.
I'm running for governor.
Explode in the sky.
Our congratulations on
An historic victory.
He's back.
In mid-January 2004, Kurdish security forces arrested a man named Hassan Gul. He was carrying a letter
Razan
that was
Gul?
addressed to bin Laden.
Here we go. Here's our super evil villain, Ra's al Ghul from Batman.
Or Kurdish security forces arrested a man named Hassan Gul. He was carrying a letter that was addressed to bin Laden. Gul was handed over to the Americans, who interrogated him and received crucial information indicating that a key person to finding bin Laden had already been on the agency's radar. Hassan Gul claimed that it is Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti who operates as bin Laden's personal courier. As the focus of the investigation shifts to Kuwaiti, investigators receive conflicting information about his role within Al-Qaeda. While Hassan Gul describes a larger role and that Kuwaiti was familiar with both Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and with his successor Abu Faraj al-Libi, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, on the other hand, denies a major role of Kuwaiti and claims that this person has long since retired and is inactive. In May 2005, Abu Faraj al-Libi himself was also arrested in Pakistan, and he too vehemently denied a larger role of Kuwaiti. Investigators were also questioning a guy that goes by the name of Hambali, the former leader of Al-Qaeda's Southeast Asian affiliate group. He claimed that Kuwaiti did play a role, as he was the one managing a safe house in Karachi around the time the Taliban fled from Afghanistan. If anything, the many contradicting statements about the role of Kuwaiti made him all the more interesting. The problem was that other than his name, not much was known about him. And even the name itself is not uniquely identifiable, as it is not his real name, but an alias that translates as the father of Ahmed from Kuwait.
Okay.
While some important information was obtained through the interrogation of prisoners, The techniques used were highly controversial.
That's what I was wondering.
Many of the prisoners were subjected to so-called enhanced interrogation techniques. That means abusive treatment, including torture, such as in the form of waterboarding.
What?
A 2014 Senate Intelligence
Nigga, we're still doing waterboarding? That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. That makes me feel like movies are kind of accurate when they be portraying, taking people and waterboarding them and stuff. Bro, I've never been waterboarded before, but what is that? You just like put a cloth on your face and they pour water on it? Bro, I'm not telling off of that. I'm drinking the water. Man, ain't got me fucked up. Nigga, I ain't folding. I ain't snitching. I ain't doing none of that. We gonna hold it down, son. That was the problem with Bin Laden. He had a bunch of fakes and phonies around him. Them niggas was not really trying to ride like that. I mean, some of them were down to ride. Obviously they put out the attack. But you see, they wasn't really built for this, man. They should have trained them in torture.
Committee report
Kill me.
examining the individual interrogations concluded that these techniques were ineffective and did not help to obtain information about Bin Laden.
Oh,
Apart from that, there is the question of whether
so they kept it real.
the display of the CIA's actions, seemingly freed from the rule of law, doesn't itself damage the national security of the country. It is a discourse that's bigger than the scope of this video. But with investigators stuck
join the
yet
discourse.
again, the next pieces of information will not come from their own work.
Another side's it.
Peace and stability.
Blockbuster Total Access, Netflix. Essentially, they work the same way.
The latest cyber drug of choice is called Twitter.
For a war that should have never
Twitter.
Calling it
Nigga, old
cyber
Twitter.
drug of choice is called Twitter.
For a war that should have never been waged.
Calling it iPhone.
Yo, get him, Steve.
In 2007, the CIA received the information they're looking for. The true identity of
What
the
he look
Kuwaiti.
like.
It does not come from their own research, but from a foreign intelligence service, which is not known. The information reveals
real name?
the true name of the Kuwaiti to be Ibrahim Saeed Ahmed, a Pakistani whose family had only moved to Kuwait.
That's why they couldn't find him.
But while they have waited 2 years to get the name, it will take further years until they are able to locate him.
Hey, we're getting there though. One step at a time, I think. You can't rush perfection.
President-elect.
You cannot rush greatness.
For bankruptcy.
I'm gonna let you finish. Michael Jackson has died.
The rescue effort begins.
They're like skipping through stuff, but it's whatever.
As good as we've seen.
Oh yeah, okay, we're running all the way to 2010, so it kind of makes sense.
In June 2010,
It's like
the
not all that stuff
Kuwaiti
happened
and
in
his
2007,
brother
bro.
changed the way to communicate with their cell phones, a fact that made it possible to determine the geolocation of the calls placed. The NSA had received telephone numbers suspected of being connected to Kuwaiti from a third country, which were now intercepted. Amidst the countless conversations monitored, one man stood out because he fit the profile of Kuwaiti. He spoke a mix of Arabic and Pashto, the language spoken in northwestern Pakistan. And in a conversation with a friend in the Persian Gulf, the man dodged the question of his whereabouts, cryptically replying that he is with the people he was with before. In addition, the investigators recognized that this individual goes to great lengths to prevent being tracked. His cell phone was switched off for most of the time, and it seems that he only put the battery in it when he was in the area around the city of Peshawar. As it became increasingly certain that this is Kuwaiti, efforts began to follow him on the ground.
They went there.
In August 2010, a Pakistani CIA agent managed to
They got CIA. Damn, son. Damn. God, how cool would that be, bro? To be like a foreign CIA agent. You out here like on the hunt for a nigga though. That shit would be clean. That's like some movie shit for real too, bro. You see this nigga at a bar. Should I off this nigga right here? Should I wait till he comes out and pow, pow, pow. Off into the nights. Off into the nights. Off into the night. 'Cause tonight will be the night that I will fall in.
identify him in his car in Peshawar. From there, he was secretly followed on his way home.
Mark him at home. Fuck it, Mr. CIA agent. How come that car's not on the ground? But that car is. Why are we flying?
Way
Why are we
home.
flying? He's gonna notice that for sure. Your car not on the ground. That nigga has a fucking, what is that? A Chevy Impala or something?
The
They got an
large
Equinox.
house surprised investigators. The agents had assumed that now that Kuwaiti had been identified, they would be monitoring him until he approached bin Laden's hideout. But when you look at the massive compound in which Kuwaiti lives, investigators thought that they might already be there. That Kuwaiti may be living under the same roof as bin Laden. Even though Washington wasn't entirely sure about it at the time, bin Laden was located, and a manhunt that has had top priority since the September 11 attacks comes to its final stage.
Oh, we here?
The task now was no longer with the intelligence agents, but with a team of special units who knew very little about what to expect when raiding this compound.
This would be fucking insane, bro.
On May 1st, 2011, at 11 p.m. local time, 2 Black Hawk helicopters, equipped with secret stealth technology, take off from Jalalabad airfield and head towards bin Laden's compound. The mission is complicated by the fact that the United States government had decided not to inform Pakistan of the operation, which means the Navy SEALs had to avoid getting noticed, which seems especially challenging considering that bin Laden's complex is located right next to a Pakistani military academy.
Oh my god.
The story of how this raid unfolded is truly fascinating, which is why I have produced another full-length video about this operation,
No
creating
fucking
detailed models
shot.
of the mission's plan and mapping out how
Bro, this nigga did this in his computer?
operation,
Nice.
creating detailed I've produced another full-length video about this operation, creating I have produced another full-length video about this operation, creating detailed models of the mission's plan and mapping out how it played out during that night.
We gotta see that.
But unfortunately, due to the violent nature of this topic, if I uploaded this video to YouTube, it would certainly get demonetized and age restricted. Luckily though, I was still able to make the video, thanks to the power of Nebula, where you can watch it right now. With the mission not going and his top one of also created a story of get out. What's truly special about Nebula is that it is a creator's production.
It's an ad.
On screen only for the
That's it?
the ambitious project that me and my friends have embarked on.
Bro. L video. It was a good video, but you know, man, what in the frick? We trying to see the operation. So that's how they got the drop on it? Bro, that's crazy. I thought it was his son. I guess we can just watch this
For
one.
almost 10 years, the United
We
States
have
had
to
been
figure it out.
tirelessly searching for one man, Osama bin Laden, the terrorist mastermind behind the September 11th attacks that
Thought it was
killed
his
almost
son.
3,000 Americans and triggered a war that was still raging today.
Maybe I'm thinking about Saddam Hussein.
May 2nd, 2011. While the United States had toppled the Taliban, the government that was sheltering bin Laden at the time of the attacks, they had never been able to capture or kill the man. That was about to change. The CIA had been searching for bin Laden's secret base for years with no luck. He had managed to escape from Afghanistan, which was under US occupation, and travel to the neighboring country of Pakistan. But in the mountains, rural regions of Pakistan, with little government oversight, it was easy for him to stay under the radar. The government had been looking for leads for years, but finally got their break in 2010, when their leads led them to a compound in Abbottabad. They began taking surveillance footage of the compound and determining the best way to breach it. What followed was one of the trickiest intelligence gathering operations in U.S. history. The compound was heavily guarded and in enemy territory. The U.S. had to rely heavily on local help to gather intelligence, and over a period of months they spied on the 3-story building. They learned every detail about the building, but a lot was still missing. For one thing, the infamous terror leader was incredibly secretive, so secretive that they were never able to capture an image of him coming in or out of the building, so everything was still circumstantial. But after an extended period of time, they were able to conclude that this was where Osama bin Laden was. Now it was time to take action. It was April 29th when President Obama was briefed on the details of the operation. Many within his security team were skeptical about the operation. After all, if it went wrong, top U.S. troops would either be...
Damn, they just told Obama, hey, nigga, it's time, bruh. It's time. You finna get that gold star next to your Presidente name. We finna go handle that one for you. We finna go spin the block for you one time. Don't even worry about it, Mr. President. We'll update you later.
Killed or remain trapped behind enemy lines. Not only would this be a disastrous loss of life, but it would potentially expose many of the U.S.'s biggest secrets if they were interrogated and forced to reveal classified info. And with the doubts that bin Laden truly was in the compound, many didn't feel it was worth the risk. Ultimately, the president disagreed, and he gave the okay to the operation that would become Operation Neptune Spear. And the people carrying it out would be the best of the best. Meet SEAL Team 6, an elite squadron of the highly trained Navy SEALs. They answer directly to the Joint Special Operations Command and carry out some of the most highly classified operations in the U.S. government. These include hostage rescue, special espionage missions, counterterrorism, targeting of enemy infrastructure, and direct action against the deadliest of U.S. enemies, like Osama bin Laden. They would be briefed on the mission, which would be classified as capture or kill. Officially, the U.S. has the policy of never killing an enemy who had already surrendered, but no one involved in the mission had any delusion that Osama bin Laden would ever surrender. And to pull this off, they had to implement some risky strategies. The planning had been going on for the better part of a year.
They was not finna catch that nigga, boy. They was not finna catch Cuzzo.
Since the intelligence reports started coming in, and many strategies had been considered. The easiest would have been a joint operation with Pakistani military forces, but the Pakistani government wasn't exactly friendly, and the U.S. was worried that bin Laden could be tipped off in advance. The U.S. also considered striking at the compound with stealth bombers, which could atomize bin Laden, but there would be no way of following up to ensure he was already dead, and the tricky terror leader had managed to escape U.S. operations before. So instead, the government decided to go old school. SEAL Team 6 would be flown in using modified Black Hawk
helicopters. Fuck yeah, bro.
That's
what the fuck I'm talking about, man. I'm tired of this new age war shit. How we just dropping drones and bombs and shit on everything, bro. Man, get your fucking feet in the dirt. Let's get it, man. Let's do this shit, bro.
To be quiet.
I'm playing Tarkov in this bitch.
And would be able to fly in under enemy radar. The Pakistani military had been heavily trained and supplied by U.S. advisors, so their capabilities were known.
This is literally fucking Rainbow Six Siege.
And the U.S. was confident they could get around them. The goal was to...
They said, we can do it, bitch. Don't ask the American fucking Navy SEAL Team 6, bro, if they can or can't do something. They'll be like, what? We're gonna do it. The fuck, give me my gun, bitch.
Pakistani military had been heavily trained and supplied by U.S. advisors, so their capabilities were known, and the U.S. was confident they could get around them. The goal was to get to the compound without being detected or challenged by the Pakistani forces, and once the target was down, they would be able to beat a hasty retreat. May 1st, 1:22 p.m., Defense Secretary Leon Panetta received word from the president and directed Admiral William McRaven to move ahead with the operation. Within the next 2 hours, President Obama and his national security team would move to the Situation Room to watch the whole thing unfold over night vision images.
That's so sick. That's so sick. These niggas had the live stream of the killing. Fuck yeah, bro. I'm giving them the green light. Bitch, we get to watch? What, are you serious? Hell yeah.
Transmitted to them from a drone.
Bro, when are they gonna drop this video, bro? They gotta drop this video eventually, right? They can't hold on to this shit forever, right? They gotta drop this bitch somewhere. I don't know where they're gonna drop it at, but they got to.
Situation Room to watch the whole thing unfold over night vision images transmitted to them from a drone. The roughly 24 Navy SEALs sent on the mission would temporarily be transferred to the...
How can we get that video, bro? We gotta get our hands on that motherfucking video. We gotta figure out how to hack, and we gotta get our hands on that video, and we sell it to the highest bidder, chat, and we getting rich.
control of the CIA, so it would technically not be a military mission and would be transferred to the control of the CIA. The 24 Navy SEALs sent on the mission for night vision images transmitted to them from a drone. The roughly 24 Navy SEALs sent on the mission would temporarily be transferred to the control of the CIA, so it would technically not be a military mission and would not be classified as an act of war.
Okay.
These were going to be some of the most critical minutes in the US's modern history, and for the men on the ground, every single minute would count. While the roughly 24 SEALs were the ones who would breach the compound, there were 79 commandos and a dog involved in the raid. The dog, a Belgian Malinois named Cairo, was there to alert the SEALs to any sudden activity, including the Pakistani military approaching the compound or anyone trying to escape.
They had a dog!
The core team was backed up by a dog handler, interpreters, pilots, intelligence agents, and tech experts who would make it all possible. But the success or failure of the mission would hinge on the men entering the compound, and one wrong move could spell doom. 3:30 a.m., give or take. 2 helicopters descend on the Abbottabad compound, while the other helicopters stand by in case.
How did they not see this fucking helicopter, bro? How you the guard? How y'all have guards? And you're like, oh, yeah, there's 2 super huge fucking digital camo helicopters right above us. What about 30 niggas in each? You might want to move, Mr. Bin Laden, bruh. It's time for you to dip. They didn't have an underground tunnel for him to leave in. That's how they fucked up. What's the point of having this? What's the point of having this? Where is he gonna hide? They didn't have a hide thingy. He didn't even have like a panic room where he can just like hide at. That's like bomb proof or something. This nigga could have just made like a bomb silo thingy. Could have just been chilling, really low key, high key.
They're needed. These 2 will carry out the primary mission. Flying low to the ground, the stealthy Black Hawk helicopters hover over the compound grounds. While the first deploys ropes to lower its team to the ground, the other heads to the far northeast corner to covertly.
Bro, shoot at this bitch. What are they doing? They didn't try to shoot at the helicopter. Bruh, all they had to do was shoot this bitch down. The fuck? They didn't have no RPGs or nothing? What the hell? What the hell? It's because it was 3 o'clock?
Drop off its
They just like didn't know?
handler, and
Bruh. If I got 24-hour security, I'm a fucking terrorist leader. Niggas, I need 24-hour security. I need at least 10 motherfuckers awake at all time. Like 5 on the outside, 5 on the inside. I need like 2 niggas just right here at the fucking door. You need to have, each of these niggas need to have AKs, RPGs, and a fucking handgun on them. I don't give a damn. And a fucking cyanide pill just in case shit goes sour. And if a nigga try to pull up, they just start spraying everything, bruh. And if there's hella niggas pulling up, that's what the RPG's for. It's to take out these motherfucking helicopters right here, bitch. Pow, bitch. Pow, bitch. That would have been it. It would have been a done deal. Done deal, nigga. We moving.
4 SEALs. If everything went smoothly, they would soon be at the compound.
Man. Oh, man, Bin Laden ass, bro. That nigga's trash.
But everything didn't go smooth. While the helicopters weren't detected and they didn't come under hostile fire, Mother Nature had something to say. The first helicopter flew into what's known as a vortex ring state, an air phenomenon caused by a higher than expected temperatures creating an air vortex. The rotor's air pressure didn't diffuse properly, the helicopter was knocked off balance, and it grazed the back of the compound wall. The tail rotor was seriously damaged, and the helicopter started rolling over. The quick-thinking pilot drove the helicopter into the ground nose first, preventing a total collapse, and the SEALs and crew were able to escape unscathed after a rough landing. Now the only question was, had this blown their secret mission?
Nigga, a helicopter hit your house and crashed right in front? Yes, that's gonna blow the mission for me.
The answer seemed to be no, as there was no sign of aggression from the compound. The SEALs had successfully weathered a crash landing without being detected. The helicopter was secure against the compound walls, and the other helicopter had landed safely outside
We
the
suck, bro.
compound.
If all these niggas would have died, we wouldn't even have known about it too. That's the craziest part, bro. This was like a dummy mission for them, bro. They could have all, bro. Obama's probably watching this like, bro, no, the pilot couldn't land it, bruh. Y'all supposed to be the best of the best.
The rest of the team was scaling the walls, and the whole team was reunited. The next step was breaching the compound, and that's where the SEALs explosives team came in. They needed to get in quickly and hit people inside with shock and
They got
awe.
explosives.
Outside preparation was key, but once they were inside, every second would count. 10 years of searching had come down
Rainbow
to
Six
this.
Siege right here.
3:33 a.m. To get through the security, the SEALs used portable explosives to blow open the doors of the compound's guest house one by one. They breached the compound and began storming up the stairs. The first room they encountered on the first floor contained 2 adult males, but neither was Osama bin Laden. They were detained, but they weren't the target. More disturbing, every floor seemed to contain small groups of children. This wasn't just a terrorist compound, it was home where the terrorists kept their families, regardless of the danger they were putting them in. Target into 2 adult males, but began storming up the stairs of the compound's guest house, one by one. The SEALs used portable explosives to blow open the doors of the compound's guest house, one by one. They breached the compound and began storming up the stairs. The first room they encountered on the first floor contained 2 adult males, but neither was Osama bin Laden. They were detained, but they weren't the target. More disturbing, every floor seemed to contain small groups of children. This wasn't just a terrorist compound, it was home where the terrorists kept their families, regardless of the danger they were putting them in. And with every floor the SEALs ascended, the danger would escalate. 335. What happened next? Reports of that may vary. As they reached the second floor, they encountered more resistance. This is where bin Laden's courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, was found, and SEAL Mark Owen would controversially write a book on the firefight. He claimed that al-Kuwaiti was armed and fired on the SEALs. While one SEAL was lightly injured, they returned fire and killed the evil courier. However, intelligence sources later said that the SEALs were able to get the drop on the man after cutting power to the compound and eliminated him without him fighting back. What was clear is that they still hadn't encountered the man himself. 337. It was time to ascend once again, and the resistance became fiercer the further the SEALs headed into the house. They'd encountered the courier, as well as his brother and wife, and all enemies had either been killed or captured. As they ascended the staircase, they encountered brother
You
and
gotta
wife.
RPG the stairs. These niggas never played no video games before, bro. That's how you stop them from getting up.
And all enemies had either been killed or captured. As they ascended the staircase, they encountered another enemy, and this one provided a glimmer of hope. After the al-Qaeda soldier was killed, the SEALs identified him as a son of Osama bin Laden, one of the terror leader's many progenies who followed in his footsteps. And if he was there, odds were good his father wasn't far away. 339. There was only one floor left to be breached, the
Nigga went out there, died for his daddy. W son.
third, and the SEALs were steeling themselves for yet another disappointment. This was clearly a high-level al-Qaeda compound, but bin Laden had been notorious for staying one step ahead of his pursuers, and he could be far away by now. But as they breached the third floor, it became clear this time was different. In the third floor's main room was Osama bin Laden, seemingly unarmed and wearing the loose-fitting tunic he was usually seen wearing in his many propaganda videos. The SEALs got their first glimpse of him as he stuck his head out of the bedroom, and they didn't miss their opportunity. They immediately fired, wounding him. However, he was able to retreat back into the bedroom, and the SEALs pursued. The room was revealed to contain many of bin Laden's female relatives, including several of his wives. One approached the SEALs as if she were charging, and the SEALs quickly shot her to wound, grabbing her and advancing further toward the terror leader. Osama bin Laden had nowhere left to run, and America's most skilled soldiers were right outside his door. What happens next? Reports vary. Matt Bissonnette, one of the SEALs on site, claims that bin Laden had been mortally wounded by the initial shots as they approached. His wives were trying to protect him, and the SEALs were forced to act as any one of them.
Damn, he had a bunch of wives forming a human shield so they don't shoot him. That's a real nigga, man. That's a real nigga, man. That was crazy. He had all them others going crazy like that. Hey, that's what's up with it, though.
Could have an explosive device, but when they pushed past them, they found bin Laden on the ground, mortally wounded. As he moved, they fired multiple shots and neutralized the terror leader for good. But another SEAL had a very different story. Robert J. O'Neill would become one of the first SEALs to identify himself as one of the men on the mission, and had a much more dramatic recollection of the events. In his retelling, Osama bin Laden might have been wounded, but he was far from neutralized. In fact, he was strong enough to grab one of the women in the room and hide behind her, using her as a human shield. As bin Laden pushed the hapless woman toward the SEALs, O'Neill quickly fired 2 shots directly into bin Laden's forehead and killed him. Which report was accurate? The Navy after-action report favors Bissonnette's
They was not trying to take this nigga back alive. They was on a mission, murder mission.
retelling. And just like that,
They said that's what they want to hear when we get back home. They do not want us to, nigga. I'm not finna. He not gonna ride next to me in the helicopter, nigga. I don't give a damn. Bow.
one of the most notorious enemies of the United States was no more. The SEAL team radioed back, "Forgotten country, Geronimo, Geronimo, Geronimo," officially confirming that the enemy had been killed in action. The entire affair had taken less than 15 minutes from landing to the elimination of Osama bin Laden, one of the most efficient operations in U.S. military history, and had been completed without a single death or serious injury to the entire Navy SEAL team. Watching from the
W
Situation
America.
Room, President Obama uttered the words the entire White House team had been waiting to hear: "We got him." But the mission wasn't over just yet. 355. The SEAL team members quickly sprung into action, securing bin Laden's body and moving it downstairs. They would be exiting shortly, but there was still some extensive cleanup work to do. The compound might be a source of vital intelligence, and they thoroughly searched the room and surrounding area. They found 2 weapons in the room, an assault rifle and a pistol, but the efficient team had managed to neutralize bin Laden before he could reach them. They weren't loaded, indicating the al-Qaeda leader was not expecting a firefight. But what to do about the other residents? Almost everyone who had engaged the U.S. troops with weapons had been killed, but the compound was full of civilians. The U.S. had no desire to take all the women and children found there into custody, so they non-violently restrained them and left them outside the compound to be found by Pakistani forces. Most didn't put up any resistance, besides the injured wife of bin Laden, Amal Ahmed Abdul Fattah. She berated the SEALs in Arabic for the entire duration of the cleanup mission, and it seemed the Yemeni woman was a true believer in her late husband's mission. She, like most of the people found there, would eventually be deported from Pakistan back to their home countries in the Middle East. And now it was time to make a clean getaway. 4:05. Bin Laden's body and every important piece of intelligence or evidence had been secured. Taking what they needed, the first helicopter was loaded and primed for takeoff. Much like the landing, this was a low takeoff to avoid detection. For those back in the US, the SEALs were heroes, but this was an unauthorized mission, and it was unlikely the Pakistani forces would be grateful if they were caught there. But much like the first time, SEAL Team 6 pulled off a perfect getaway and exited the compound. But there was one more matter to attend to. 4:08. The damaged Black Hawk helicopter that crashed into the compound would not be leaving through the sky, and Pakistani forces would be there shortly. The chopper contained vital information about U.S. military capabilities, because it wasn't just a standard helicopter and had been outfitted with stealth features. So before they departed, the troops used the same portable explosives like the one they'd used to breach the compound, and gave their fallen chopper an explosive send-off. This only took minutes.
That's crazy. They said, no, they're going to hack our shit. They're gonna have crazy. They're going to have a Black Hawk. We can't leave this shit here, boy. Can't leave a Black Hawk here. They could fix this shit up. The fuck? Blow that bitch up.
And soon one of the backup helicopters brought on the mission arrived, scooping up the remaining SEALs and flew them off to join the first helicopter. The mission was over, and now it was time for a long ride. 5:53. The ride back was over an hour and a half, more than 3 times the length of the mission that killed Osama bin Laden. But now that it was over, they had to get back to safe territory, back in US-occupied Afghanistan, where the Americans had been fighting since the days after September 11th terror attacks. While it was unlikely the Pakistanis would fire on a US chopper if it was detected, a stealthy escape would go much smoother. So the US troops had some disinformation efforts. As the various explosions led to crowds before takeoff, an Urdu-speaking American military officer claimed it had been a Pakistani operation being carried out at the compound and to keep their distance. It worked, and the Americans landed safely at Bagram Airfield, carrying the body of Osama bin Laden. Now it was time to deal with the aftermath. 7:01. Back at the White House, the celebration was tempered by one question. Was it really him? Bin Laden was infamous for using body doubles, and there had been multiple times where it was thought he had been killed, only for it to turn out to be a feint. So everyone waited anxiously for the results of the preliminary examinations of the corpse. And over an hour after the SEALs arrived in Afghanistan, a new report came in, indicating that the notorious rogue was actually dead. This time, the United States had gotten their man, and the American public was about to find out. It was the evening of May 1st when word started going around that the president was going to be making a speech on TV that night. Usually, when Barack Obama made a planned speech, it was early in the evening during prime time, often to the annoyance of everyone who was trying to watch their favorite TV show. But this unplanned speech on short notice—
do they even do this type of shit anymore, bro? That shit will like come out on Twitter.
This was different, and political watchers kept waiting until the president ascended the podium at less than half an hour to midnight. And as soon as he opened his mouth, people knew this was big. 11:35. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda and a terrorist who is responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
What?
As the president paid tribute to the many
that boy made sure he had a crispy lineup for that announcement.
In bin Laden's terror attacks, a spontaneous celebration erupted around the country. It was just short of 10 years since the September 11th terror attacks, and many Americans lived in fear of the next attack. As word got around, large groups of fans attending sports games screamed in joy. Democrats exulted in the biggest foreign policy win of the Obama presidency, and Republicans celebrated the end of an enemy while wondering if they should even bother running against him next year. And there was only one thing left to do. 12:59. It was a little over an hour after President Obama's speech, and the troops had one major piece of business left to attend to: what to do with Osama bin Laden's body. The terror leader had been fully tested and examined, and they were sure he was their guy. He had been checked for any vital intel, and the body had no more secrets to give up. The only thing left to do was dispose of the
That's
body.
tough.
But there was one problem with that.
No
No
more
one
secrets.
wanted him. Bin Laden was wanted in just about every country on the planet, and even countries where he had sought refuge, Pakistan and Afghanistan, considered him an outlaw. No country would want to give him a grave, because it would be a massive target for radical activity. No one wants to have an Al-Qaeda pilgrimage in your country every year. So why not just cremate his body and be done with it?
Burn it.
Cremation is against Islamic tradition, and as hated as the terror leader was, the government still wanted to respect his faith. No need to anger his followers any more than they already were, given that their leader had just been eliminated. Fortunately, there was an alternative. Bin Laden's body was loaded onto the aircraft carrier Carl Vinson, and the US government called the government of Saudi Arabia for approval to dispose of the body. He was a Saudi citizen after all, and the Saudis were important allies of the US government at the time. And the Saudi response was, "We don't care what you do with him, just don't make it our problem." The plan to bury Osama bin Laden at sea was approved, and the body was treated with Muslim religious rites. There was even a brief reading of Arabic religious statements, at which point the body was draped in a white shroud, placed in a bag loaded with hundreds of pounds of iron chains, and placed on a wooden board.
That nigga dead body did a lot of traveling. That's kind of crazy.
As the board was tilted forward, bin Laden's body slipped into the sea, ensuring the terror leader would never have a grave that could be visited by loyalists or targeted by enemies. And now that the entire operation was over, there was only the cleanup to attend to. It was roughly 3 a.m. local time in Pakistan when the army chief received a phone call informing the country of the operation that took place in their borders. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff filled him in on the details and likely
That nigga said, what? In my country? What? What?
smoothed over some angry words. While there was some brief dispute of whether any
Bitch!
Pakistani forces had been involved, the government denied this, and reports stated that the Pakistani planes which scrambled to the location had only arrived after the US forces had departed. This is not where the aftermath ended, though. The raid that killed Osama bin Laden had played out over less than an hour, but the follow-up would span years. Controversy centered around the legality of the raid on foreign soil. Although the laws passed after 9/11 gave the US wide latitude to eliminate threats abroad, Pakistan wasn't pleased with the US operating on their soil, and the US wanted to know more about bin Laden's network of support in Pakistan. Neither got too many answers. Conspiracy theories persisted about bin Laden's being alive, although the US government releasing some photos of the terror leader's corpse largely put those to rest. And there was one more inevitable act. Once the operation was partially declassified, various members of the team started putting out memoirs. Some varied in details, and most made the person writing the book out to be the hero. So naturally, it wasn't long before Hollywood came calling. Only a year and a half after
Black
the
Hawk
death
Down.
of Osama bin Laden, the movie Zero Dark
Zero
30
Dark
was
30,
released,
fuck.
and its pick for the hero was a fictional intelligence analyst played by Jessica Chastain, because it wouldn't be a key moment in American history without Hollywood putting its own spin on it. Want to know more about this famous manhunt? Check out Weird
is
Things
kinda funny.
Navy SEALs
This is how we think he should have died. Ass Hollywood movie. Yeah, how do you crack? Nigga, how you crash a helicopter? How do you not hear the helicopter? I thought that shit was like. I gotta see something. Black Hawk stealth helicopter sound. Okay, here we go.
A couple of years ago, a top-secret U.S. helicopter emerged. It is commonly referred to as Stealthy Black Hawk or Silent Hawk. However, these are not its original names. This helicopter was first observed in 2011 during a raid in Pakistan that took down Osama bin Laden.
We get to see him?
SEALs. At least 2 helicopters were used during that raid and carried U.S. Navy SEALs. During the operation, one of these helicopters was damaged, became inoperable, and made a hard landing. After the operation, the SEALs blew it up with explosives. However, a tail section of the stealthy helicopter survived. There were absolutely no official comments regarding this helicopter. The whole development program and any official details on these stealthy helicopters are kept in high secrecy. It is believed that these stealthy helicopters have been used by elite special operation forces for years without the public's knowledge. And it seems that all of their missions were successful, or at least all secret helicopters managed to return to their bases. The black paint of this helicopter and other design features, such as reduced radar cross-section and low noise levels, indicate that these special forces helicopters are intended to operate at night when it is difficult to spot them. These helicopters operate fast and at very low altitudes to avoid detection by radars. It seems that these stealthy helicopters are used only on highest priority missions. Some say that the Ghost helicopter is a heavily modified version of the Black Hawk. However, the wreckage of the tail section bears no resemblance to that of the MH-60 Blackhawk, which is typically used by the US Special Forces. So likely that this stealthy helicopter has an entirely different design. It is possible that this stealthy helicopter evolved from the cancelled RAH-66 Command and stealth technology. However, the program was cancelled in 2004. The wreckage of the tail rotor shows that this helicopter uses smaller blades. Also, the tail rotor is shielded by a disc. It looks like the noise of this helicopter easily blends into any background noise. The helicopter is so silent that adversaries might not even react until it is too late.
What?
Neighbors of Bin Laden told that they didn't hear the helicopters approaching until they were directly overhead.
What?
The general shape of what was left on the crash site indicates that the helicopter has harsh angles and flat surfaces. Looks like it is made of special high-tech materials similar to that used in stealthy aircraft. This secret helicopter was designed to have a reduced radar cross-section. Its shape and coating absorb and distort radar beams. Likely, the rotor blades also some kind of radar absorbing or distortion features. Radars of the Pakistani Defense Forces did not see these helicopters coming in. This helicopter is operated by a crew of 2 or 3 men, including 2 pilots and possibly a gunner. It can transport around 10 to 12 fully equipped passengers. Such stealthy transport helicopters allow commandos to sneak up on their target.
We gotta hear what this bitch sound like. Is it really this quiet? Bro, you can't. I need to see. Pretty dope. Pretty dope. Pretty dope.
A sophisticated U.S. helicopter filled with stealth technology.
It lost lift. Happened if that helicopter had crashed, right, had to be left behind, and it has.
What's up, pimp?
Hey, gang, what you doing right now?
I'm chilling on stream right now. Probably about to go out soon.
You're gonna go out?
Yeah, probably.